Perak Atzeiches HaPoelim Daf Pei Zayin, sponsored Le'ilui Nishmas Imi Moirasi Binsa Bas Harav Shloima. The Gemara explains how one is obligated to respond to a gadol as opposed to a regular person. Misarvin lekatan ve'ein misarvin legadol. The angels responded to Avram's invitation immediately, whereas concerning Lot, the Torah states, Vayivtzar ba ma'od. He urged the angels exceedingly. The Gemara distinguishes between a tzaddik and a rasha concerning a particular character trait. Tzaddikim omrim ma'at v'osim harbe. Rishoyim omrim harbe v'osim ma'at. A tzaddik says little but does a lot. A rasha talks a lot but does very little, if anything. Avram offered his guest bread and provided them meat. Ephron offered originally Sarah's burial plot for free, then charged Avram a high price and only accepted heavy-weighted coins acceptable everywhere. The Gemara describes the difference between a husband and a wife's attitude to guests. Women are stingier to guests than men. When Avram said to Sarah, prepare 3 saws of flour, she asked whether kemach or soles, kemach being inferior. According to one interpretation, if Avram agreed to kemach, she would not have insisted on soles. The Gemara proves that Avram Avinu was particular to eat chulin betara. He never served the bread she prepared. The dough became tummy when she got her period. And Mefarshim explained he did not want to serve them bread he would not eat himself. The Gemara states that shalom bayis, marital harmony, should always be encouraged. According to one opinion, the angels asked Avram Sarah's whereabouts to engender greater love due her for her modesty. Later on this Amud, we find another more extreme action to promote their marital harmony. Hashem alters Sarah's words concerning Avram. Her skepticism regarding the news of conceiving was returning to a youthful state while Avram remained old. Hashem expressed her skepticism at conceiving, being she was too old. The Gemara gives 2 other reasons they ask her whereabouts. Number 1, he wanted to pass her the kosher bracha. Number 2, it is proper etiquette to inquire concerning a wife's well-being from her husband. According to Tosfos, this does not include sending regards. The Gemara explains one reason for aging and illness. Aging began with Avram Avinu. It was for people to distinguish between parents and children. Illness began with Yaakov Avinu. It is for children to be with their parents in their final hours. At this time, they guide their conduct for the future. The Gemara explains that Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya told his son to offer the workers not legume bread, but wheat bread with legumes. The novel teaching of Akol Kamina Gamadina in the Mishnah is in the case where he promised to pay the worker a wage of 1 or 2 workers. According to Rabbi Yeshua, it is the lowest paid worker in the community. According to the Chachamim, it is the average wage of the place. Now we move on to a new Mishnah. This Mishnah explains laborers' rights according to Torah law, not based on local custom. Number 1, a laborer hired to harvest a field may partake of the yield as opposed to one hired to cultivate. The Gemara brings 3 possible sources. A, the Torah states the right of a worker to partake of grapes and grain during the harvest. Although they are different from each other, the grapes not part of a cluster must be left for the poor. Challah must be taken from grain. The Gemara explains their common characteristic. They grow from the ground, can be applied to other similar crops. B, Shmuel explains anything cut by a sickle based on the verse that states one can pluck with his hand to eat. V'chermesh lo saniv. One is not permitted to use a sickle. It mentions a sickle as opposed to simply saying a utensil to extend the law to all things cut by way of a sickle. However, it still limits the law to those crops cut by a sickle. Therefore, the Gemara brings the 3rd interpretation, which is Rabbi Yitzchak. He learns it from Komas Riecha, any crop standing. The verse mentions grapes. Even though these are included in a standing crop, it is mentioned to teach specific laws, such as the prohibition of placing the picked crop in one's basket applies to a Jew, not to one working for a Gentile. On the other hand, if the field belongs to Hegdish, he cannot even pick the crop to eat. He cannot suck out the juice of grapes and leave the skins, or dip them in salt to enhance their flavor to eat more. He can satisfy, not stuff himself. Since it is a snack, he does not have to tithe.